What's happening, people? Welcome to this week's episode of the Indy and Dots podcast. I am once again left alone, so it's just Indy this week. I'm joined by a very special guest. He is the CEO of Bootcamp Media, a creative digital marketing agency based in Birmingham. He's also a regular in the networking circuit and invests a lot of time with charities such as the St. Mary's Hospice and Acorns Children's Hospice. As a result of this, he has also spawned a number of annual charity events that are supported by Bootcamp Media and has delivered support to organizations that need it the most. He's also my mentor and overall one of the nicest people I've ever met in the digital marketing space. Hey Jamil, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, buddy. I was wondering who you're talking about then. Then you mentioned my name.
let's not water it down.
You
gave me another dissertation, right? And your intro is by far the longest intro I've ever seen from a guest of mine given. So I could tell that you're a salesman and you're a CEO of a company because you know how to sell yourself. Right.
Well, I started life off as a salesperson, let's say that way, before I became a creative.
I thought so. It's been a while, man. I think the last time that we spoke was about a couple of months ago, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's just non-stop. It's hectic, isn't it, in the digital world? So it's like you fit in time to speak to people whenever you can. And obviously, I mean, we speak as much as we can, don't we?
It's true. The way that we met was quite extraordinary, really. So I think I should give people a bit of context. This is back when I was trying to get into marketing. And I was emailing every marketing agency in Birmingham. And again, this is quite telling of Jim's characteristics. So I emailed everyone. He was the only one that responded to me saying, "You free for a call?" And I was like, oh my God, he's actually giving me the time of day. Bear in mind, I knew next to nothing. I was just messing around with some stuff. And the stars didn't align, unfortunately. And I couldn't get a chance to work with Jim because he didn't have the capacity. I couldn't work for him in time. I moved to another job, and it's just been like that since. But I noticed that the two of us have really good chemistry whenever we talk. So I asked him if he wanted to be my mentor, and with all the 150 things he's doing, he said yes. And we have like a catch up whenever we're both available. And it's been fantastic just getting to know him and hearing his advice, really, especially him being a minority and working in this space, because I don't know hardly anyone else in the space that's doing as well as you are in the marketing world.
I mean, thank you for that, Indy. I mean, look, I saw a lot of potential in you. There's a lot of people who apply for jobs in this role, but there's something that stood out in your email, the introduction that you made, that just made me reach out to you and wanted to grab a coffee with you. And I really took to you really quickly. I knew straight away that you were serious about learning. There's a lot of people who want to get into space, but they don't really know why.
Yeah.
And it's just that they just want to explore what digital is all about, or marketing or web design or what have you, but they don't have no passion. But you definitely had the passion for it. I'm just glad that I've been able to sort of help you a little bit along the way. You've done fantastically, by the way, as well. So, you know, I'm really proud of you.
I really appreciate it. So tell me more about how you got into marketing, Jim. Tell me the story of you, because the purpose of this podcast is, well, for this episode, is to pretty much champion where you came from and to give people inspiration. And you're one of the most inspirational people I know. So tell me how you got into marketing. I checked your LinkedIn last night. I'm not sure if you saw the little notification saying someone checked your LinkedIn last night. That was me. And I just took a look through your whole history and how you got into the space. So I know, but give people a bit of context.
Well, I didn't start off in the creative industry when I first left school. I left school back in 1989 with a handful of GCSEs. And I went straight into YTS, which is now an apprenticeship scheme. So it was called the Youth Training Scheme at the time. And I started life as a administrator working for a translation company. And so I just started off there. I quite enjoyed working in a professional environment. I enjoyed the kind of people that were, you know, you could find in an office back in those days. And just sort of took to that. I love talking to people. So I had the opportunity to speak to clients and suppliers on the phone, organizing, it was translations back in those days. So, you know, I was working with the likes of Land Rover, BMW.
Oh, wow, some pretty big companies, yeah.
Yeah. So some pretty good big companies. And we were doing their driver manuals. And so I remember doing the Land Rover driver manual in Arabic for the Discovery, I think it was at the time. Wow. And I was then speaking to the translators, organizing the work. I had to actually count the words, would you believe it or not, as well.
What do you mean? So, count words?
Yeah, so there's no such thing as, there was no tools back in those days to give you a count of how much, you know, what how much words were in a
So you
document.
had to
right?
go through manually one by one, say 1, 2, 3, 4.
So I figured that formula out. Obviously, initially, I'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, if I wanted to go to sleep, I wouldn't be counting sheep. I'd be counting words.
Yeah, of
for
course.
sure.
Good idea. Yeah.
And so then I started learning how to estimate. So I knew how many words per line, and then I could virtually look at a page and say, yeah, that's got 300 words on it or 1,000 words on it, and give an estimate based on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd speak to the supplier, get a quote off of them, go back to the client, give them a firm quote on that, and then organize the translation to happen, get the typesetting done. Obviously, I can't proofread because I'm not going to speak Arabic or French or German, and I'd have to get proofreading involved. So it was quite an involved job. And as a 16, 17-year-old, that amount of responsibility and working with those kind of brands, it was a huge honor to do that as well. And I really took to it as well.
This is back in the year, what? The year 2000?
So this was 1990. So
wow.
89 going into September 1989.
You guys had the big boxy computers, like the really old ones. The ones that weigh a ton when you pick it up, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, the big massive CRTs, they must have been about that big. I mean, one person had an email account, by the way, back in those days, and emails did exist.
Wow.
Back in 1989, 1990, but it was one person. Because our head office was in Utah, America as well, so we communicate that way with them. But yeah, we had these big screens and the big chunky typewriters as well. So you can imagine, you can just sort of picture it, can't you?
I can picture it.
Style offices.
Sounds so funky.
Yeah, it was good fun. It was good fun. I enjoyed it.
Okay, and then from there you moved on to another company, didn't you? So you went from there to Boots, is that correct?
No, so before I went into Boots, so I was at Alpnet for about three years. I think I turned 20 while I was there, and then I was made redundant along with quite a few other people in the business. And it just that recession started hitting, I think, back then, or there was some turbulence in the economy at the time. And so there was redundancies made at the time, and I was unfortunately one of the unlucky ones to be made redundant. And I felt quite distraught, to be fair, because it was a job I loved. I hadn't done nothing wrong. I was doing my job to the best of my ability, and I thought I was doing a brilliant job at that time as well. And to be made redundant, it's the most crushing feeling, being told that you don't belong with our company anymore. Here's your check, thanks very much, and bye-bye, basically. So it was a horrible feeling. But I actually started my first business right after that because I really loved working in the translation industry itself, but it's such a small industry. There wasn't going to be a lot of opportunities. Not as if I could pick up what I learned and go to another company and say, right, no, I come from Alpnet, by the way, which is one of the biggest translation companies in the world. There just wasn't enough. There wasn't enough
demand for it back then.
Yeah, there was no demand for it. So
the internet
I decided
wasn't as big.
Exactly. So I decided to start my own business. I already had a really good relationship with all the suppliers and the customers as well. There was no covenant that I'd signed with the company at the time. So I went out and I reached out to all the customers I was doing with before, and they quickly became my customers. So, started that business off from my front room. I had a fax machine, no computer at the time. And just started off. But I was 20 years old. I was wet behind the ears. I didn't have any discipline when it came to finances. I knew how the business worked, but I had no other discipline in business whatsoever. So, give about, I think it was about 18 months in, and it became a bit unstuck because money was coming in and money was going out, but I wasn't managing the cash flow as responsibly as I should have done. But then at 20 years old, what the hell would I know? Right?
Yeah, man. At 20 years old, I was in second or third year uni. I was, again, not in control of my finances. I was relying on my student loan. And I was thinking, this is it. That's all I need. I don't need to think about anything else beyond that. But the fact that you set up a business at that age and made it, I guess, somewhat successful, that's a massive achievement. And I guess that probably gave you inspiration to set you up for later.
Yeah, I mean, I was very hard on myself at the time. I saw it as a massive failure. But looking back now, actually, for a 20-year-old kid, for my first business, it was not bad at all. So considering that I had no skills at finance or managing cash flow or sort of, you know, any of the other business skills I have right now, I didn't do too badly. I knew the business, but I didn't know the business of running a business itself, right? So, but yeah, I mean, looking back now in hindsight, I can see that I didn't do too badly. I just needed some guidance and mentoring, and which I didn't have at the time.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, that the recession really sort of got a grip at the time, and the work sort of dried up, which meant the money would dry up, and which meant I had no income coming in for long periods of time. Dribs and drabs here and there, but it just wasn't sustainable. So I decided to leave that, and a friend of mine introduced me into retail itself. So I helped him out a little bit here and there with working at Topman and Burton's and Foster's back in the day. You won't remember.
Foster's,
you're going to be young. So Foster's used to be a men's retail clothing store. It's way back in the day. It closed down a long time ago in the 90s. So
this will show the demographic. This will show the full demographic of my listeners. If they know what it is and they message me afterwards, right? I'll be like, I know how old you are now. Thank you. Right.
But to be honest with you, Topman and Burton's are still around, just about. Obviously,
just about, yeah. Topman recently got bought out by Acorns. So, yeah,
exactly. So I mean, I did that stint for a short while, and then, as you rightly said, I went into Boots, and I mean that opportunity came about purely by chance. I'd just had my CV written up, and I went along with a friend of mine to go and collect his contact lenses from Boots Opticians on New Street. Which is the old
the same now. One. That's still in the same place, isn't it? It's not changed. Like the one on New Street is where is it? Isn't it? Am I thinking of the same one? I'm thinking of the one that goes underground a little bit. Is that the one that you used to work at?
No, that's a new one. So the one I used to work at is what the old Primark is on New Street. Primark.
Oh yeah, I know where it is. Yeah.
So that Primark was the whole of Boots. And anyway, the Opticians was downstairs. You'd go down the stairs, pretty much like the one in
Hang on,
the
which
High Street.
Primark? There's one in Pavilions now, but there was also the previous Primark.
So this one was opposite the Odeon Cinema.
Yeah, so this is the old Primark because this is now moved, doesn't it? So it's taken the whole of the Pavilions.
Yeah. Okay, things move around. It's like a chessboard, isn't it? So I walked in there, and my friend was collecting his contact lenses, and I cheekily just said, "Look, guys, is any jobs going?" And he says, "Oh, no." And then the manager was walking past, and he says, "Oh, give me a CV." He goes, "There's no jobs going at the moment." He goes, "But if there is one, we'll give you a call." So I gave him a copy of my CV. And back in those days, I mean, I didn't have a mobile phone. I had a pager, and literally about an hour.
That feels like something out of a movie, man. Like pages. I need to check my voicemails. Yeah.
Literally, you go to a phone box to check your messages, right? Because you get this alert saying ring this number, and you ring up and you'd get a message. But about an hour later, I got a pager, and so I rang back up, and it was Tony, who was the manager at the Boots Opticians, and he said, "Oh, look, I'm really impressed with your CV. Can you come in for an interview?" And I said, "Oh yeah, what day would you?" He goes, "No." He goes, "Can you come back in now?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not in a obviously.
I'm not dressed.
I want to. And he goes, "No." He goes, "Look, I've already seen you." He goes, "Just come in, have a quick casual chat."
Yeah.
He goes, "We'll take it from there." And I went in, and I can't remember what I was wearing, but obviously it's casual. I was probably in trainers and jeans and what have you, so I wasn't looking the best anyway. And I went in to see him and had a conversation. He was a great guy. I mean, a great manager as well. And he offered me the job there and then. He said, "I'd like you to start." So I did that for a few years, and I really loved it. I learned so much from that job as well. And that was dealing with the public, basically. So that was a face-to-face sales.
Yeah.
I was on what they term as a designer island. So they had all the designer eyewear from Armani through to like Cartier.
Oh, so you're doing the perfumes and stuff as well and all that.
No, God, no.
Oh, yeah, I can see you with that. Would you like to try, sir? Would you like to try?
No. I mean, look, I tell you the skills that it taught me, and I've used those skills to this day. It's networking, and so I'll give you an example. Back in those days, Men in Black came out. So we were doing the Ray-Ban wraps right at the time, and so I went across to several businesses. And Men in Black was quite a big movie back in those days as well, right? So this is the original one. So I went into the Odeon, and I was speaking to the manager there, and I said, look, you know, we're doing the sunglasses. I've got the rep coming down. You know, could we put up some leaflets and sort of boards and what have you as well? And he said, yeah. And I said, we'll do the same for you. You know, we'll promote the movie for you from our store, and we'll send customers to you. And then from that, we started doing sort of competitions and what have you as well. So any of their customers who bought a ticket to watch the movie could be entered into a draw to win a pair of sunglasses. And vice versa, people who bought a pair of sunglasses would get a ticket to watch the movie, right?
Wow, that's really smart. That's a nice little growth hack, yeah.
A buy one, get one free ticket, by the way. So, and it was only valid on, I think it was a Tuesday or Wednesday. This is before Orange Wednesdays, by the way.
Yeah, Orange Wednesdays are great.
So they were quite keen on doing that. So we did that. It was a massive success. Then I started working with other retailers, you know, in the locality as well. And that was one of the first tastes I had of networking and network marketing as well.
Jim, why did you go and do that? Were you just bored and you thought, let me just go and see as to what I can figure out and just go and do? Or were you just thinking, I need to think outside the box to impress? What made you take that step? Because being a minority person myself, if I was doing that, I'd be like, I've just got to do my job, stay within these parameters, and then just leave it. Because I was just taught that growing up, and to not push outside of your little area, because it's rude, or maybe going to upset some people.
Anyone who tells you to stay inside your box, you can tell them to go and jump.
No, I know, but I'm saying as a confidence thing, like as a kid, I just thought, I just need to do my normal job and that's it, I'm good. But maybe that's because I wasn't fully into it. But for you to do that as well at a young age back then, when probably it was a lot more difficult to network because people were going to look at you differently compared to now, where things are more accepting. So what made you take that step?
So I had a responsibility back then. So in the interview, you know, I was telling Tony that, look, you know, I'm great at sales. I'm great at customer service. You know, I can bring the customers in basically, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't bravado. I was confident that I could do that. I knew that as soon as I started speaking to a customer, that if I understood what their needs were, I could fulfill them, right? If they were coming in for a pair of glasses, I could find them their perfect pair of glasses and help them, right? Well, I promised him, because at the time the store was taking in 15K a week in sales revenues, right? That's what they were taking in, and the figures would go up and down slightly, but not much. 15K is the average, is what they were bringing in. Well, he basically, I mean, this is why I say he was a brilliant manager, and is a lovely guy, Tony was, and he unshackled me. He just said, look, do whatever it takes, but let's help me increase the revenue. Now, just imagine this. This is an optician's inside of Boots, so it's Bootcamp Optician. It's downstairs and at the back. It's right out the way, so there's not much footfall coming through. Of course, yeah. So I had to beg, borrow, and steal window space from Boots, and it was usually the back. I got some frontage cover sometimes as well. I got an A board which I was able to stick outside, which they weren't using, right? So I got the passing trade. If you're looking for an appointment for an eye test today, come downstairs now. So I did all those things. I did all the obvious things you could do, right? Which
just to reiterate, this is a big thing. I don't think people understand how much of a significant impact this had, because this is back in the day where billboards were massively successful. Window shopping was the actual thing. No one was looking at their phones. No one had short attention span. It was literally, you would walk down the high street and expect to see eye-catching stuff. And this is what eye-catching stuff was, right? Getting that space in the window and trying to get people in. This is called
conversion optimization.
Yeah, it is. This is conversion optimization, right? People are like, oh, my website has to look great. I'm like, no. Back then, your window space had to look great, mate. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you have to make sure that the people understand what the value proposition is first, right? Before they stop, look, and then take the action.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we did. So I was doing it naturally back in those days, and then obviously the network marketing, which is going out to other businesses and getting our name out there, and getting them to enthusiastically push Boots Opticians, because they knew that they can come in for a free eye test, any of the staff or what have you, or they'd get a discount if they came in as well, and vice versa. So there was a lot of that going on, and suddenly that started increasing footfall to the
back of the store. Yeah,
and within 6 months, the store went from 15K a week to 35K a week.
Wow, nice, very nice.
And I can tell you, right, so not only did my manager notice, obviously, the whole regional sales force noticed as well. So the directors came down, head office directors came down as well. and they all wanted to know how the hell did we go from 15K a week to 35K a week suddenly from nowhere, right?
Just because you thought outside the box, right?
Yeah, because I thought outside the box. And so they came to me and they said, look, you know, it's because of the designer eyewear that we're selling more of. I mean, they had the Boots branded stuff, which they weren't selling as much of, but they were selling more of the designer eyewear. Yeah. What I did was I actually invited all the reps to start coming in as well. And the reps actually then started giving me the best eyewear. They were telling me what were the best sellers up and down the country. This is invaluable data at the end of the day, right? This is invaluable information. I'm like, okay, so this sells in Regent Street, this sells in Manchester, this sells in, you know, Arndale, what have you. Oh yeah, okay. I'll take one of those as well, thank you. Or I'll take 5 of those, thank you. I'll take 5 of those, I'll take 2 of those, I'll take...
Man, your manager really let you off the leash, man. Honestly, like, that's fantastic.
Listen, it was so contagious, Indy, honestly. By the time I started doing that, all of the dispensing teams started jumping in on the sales visits as well. And they were like, oh, I really love that pair of glasses. I go, listen, I go, so, and I said to the rep, I go, so how well does that sell? Oh, no, it doesn't sell very well. I go, we're not having it. If it doesn't sell well, we're not having it.
Forget what you want. It's all about what people want. Yeah, and what
exactly.
what the customers
so want. Our stock changed from lame to exciting overnight. And everybody got involved. And so, like I said, the directors came down from head office and they were asking, you know, how have you done this? And I explained, I told them all the steps I've taken, and they rolled out that to all the other stores, right? And it was a massive success. In fact, we were so successful, we outsold our flagship store in Regent Street.
Hang on. Birmingham outsold Regent Street.
Yeah.
Jim, I'm going to need proof of this, man. You're going to have to email them and send me the data screenshot, because that sounds unbelievable, honestly.
So much so, mate. Cartier used to take out all of their top sales people out, you know, on excursions, what have you, and I got to go 3 times.
Who are Cartier? Sorry.
3 years. Yeah. So basically,
who are Cartier?
Cartier, the luxury brand.
I've never heard of it, but okay.
Cartier,
maybe it's not my demographic, but okay.
It's not your demographic, definitely. Okay. So Cartier is a luxury brand. Think Rolex, but Cartier for jewelry, eyewear.
I see. Okay.
They do eyewear, but they're more known for jewelry and watches and what have you as well, right? So, so that was great, you know, and I got recognition. So I was one of the only big brands like Boots Opticians that was able to go out. All the rest of the people that were going to these excursions were small independent opticians.
Yeah.
And they specialize in designer eyewear. Whereas the Vision Expresses, who did sell designer eyewear, but they weren't focused on selling it the way I was selling it in Boots as well. So that was a massive achievement for me, and, you know, another feather in my cap as well. But, you know, unfortunately, all good things come to an end. My manager got promoted and moved to head office. He wanted me to come with him. But at the time, they wanted me to go onto a management program, which I was totally excited about. Like, yeah, this is right up my street. I want to do this. I want to move up. I want to, you know, I could see myself progressing within Boots. But unfortunately, I got a bit of a hard landing. I was told that because I don't have a degree, I wouldn't qualify to go into the management program.
Even though you proved all of that,
you
didn't have a degree, they wouldn't let you on. That's insane.
You
had the skills for it.
I thought I had some skills, certainly enough to help with the growing of the brand itself. But anyway, I mean, I couldn't go to head office, so my manager changed, so he went on to head office himself. You know, he was very sort of, he was not happy about that at all. But you know, I said, look, I'll stay on. It's not a problem. I enjoy the job I'm doing right now anyway. I made some great friends there as well. And so I got a new manager, and the new manager had his own ideas as to how he wanted to run the store. And so soon, really, really quickly, he clipped my wings and said, you can't do this, you can't do that. No more sort of
collaborations or anything.
Yeah, no more reps. And I was like, okay, no problem. Obviously, he hadn't got the memo as to what was helping. So as soon as he did that, the revenue started to not decline massively, but it started to sort of dwindle down a little bit. Because we had quite a lot of stock and what have you as well at the time. And I just felt, if I stick around any longer, I'm just going to start becoming resentful, and I didn't want to do that. And so, I just took yeah, decided to leave basically.
Mm-hmm.
Just didn't feel like I was being appreciated as I was before.
So
and then
you just left there, and you're thinking now where to go. So you've now started your own business. You've done this whole thing for an actual corporate now in a company, and you've improved their revenue and stuff. You have a pretty good insight on how that works, and you're thinking, right, now what? So what did you do then?
So I went on to work for Ainsley Insurance at the time, and I did that by chance, by the way. It wasn't a deliberate thing. It was just a job that came up, and I was just looking for a job. I needed to pay the bills. I had mortgage to pay as well, what have you as well. So, an opportunity came along. It was a sales job. I knew I could do sales. It was going to be over the phone and face to face. So, it was an office where you could walk in to meet a insurance salesperson as well.
Okay.
So I did that, and I enjoyed it, but it just wasn't exciting. And then I just started thinking then, that what do I want to do with my life? Maybe this is the time now I need to start focusing on a long-term career, because I can't go from job to job. I just
you can't just sort of just stumble around. You need to have like some direction.
Yeah. So believe it or not, although I didn't go through college and what have you at the time, I did exams and what have you. So I did my insurance exams. I passed them like that. It wasn't a problem. So I could definitely apply myself. And I thought to myself, why didn't I do it? And I realized it was because of pressures from home, financial pressures and what have you. That's why I didn't go on to college and university. It is because I needed to help my parents out. And so I thought to myself, what can I do? What are my passions? What do I really, really like? And I love tinkering around with computers as a side hobby, which I've never really focused on. I just enjoyed it, right? So I thought, well, what can I do that would allow me to sort of work in sort of a creative industry or IT industry as well?
Yeah.
And I think around about that time, around about 96, 97, I started learning a lot more about web and internet and whatnot, and it started becoming a big thing back then as well, right? So I thought, well, this seems quite exciting. This seems quite a new thing, and obviously with anything new, when you go onto it, like it's sort of the early adopters are the ones that succeed the best as well. Not that I knew that at the time, but so yeah, I sort of started learning a bit about web design. I didn't have internet at home. Back in those days, there was AOL, which you had to use.
So which year was this? Was this in 98?
Sorry?
This in 98, 99?
This is 97 at the time. 96, 97
so
at the time.
Did you used to go to, I remember my older brother, he used to do this. You would go to Asda and you get these little discs for AOL, and they'd be like a trial, and you could just grab like stacks of them, put them in your bag, because they're free trials, and take them home, and you can use them for like 7 days a piece. Were you doing that? Yes, I knew it. We all did it.
So there was FreeServe and there was AOL, but I also went to internet cafes. I think back in those days, if I'm not mistaken, around about that time, the Orange Studio opened as well, and Orange Studio had an internet cafe there. In fact, if you were having coffee there or snacks or whatever, you could use the internet for free. So I mean, I was spending like every weekend I'd be spending 10 hours a day just surfing the internet. A little bit of learning, bit of fun, and just sort of learning about this great technology that was coming out. And I really quite I got sort of took up with it as well. So I started learning to code in HTML back in those days, and I didn't have a computer, so I'm embarrassed to say this, but at home, I'd be doing sketches. I still do sketches now, by the way, as well. So I'd be doing a sketch of a website, how it'd look, laying it all out. And back in those days, there's tables, by the way, just so you know, and I wasn't using divs or CSS. There was no such thing, so it's tables. So literally everything was sketched out, onto a sheet. And then my girlfriend, who's my wife now, gifted me a little MacBook.
Really?
It was about that big. Like, I mean, it was small. It was like a lot of the cream, big thick things as well. And it had Notepad on it, right? Yeah. And I used Notepad and I started styling HTML in there. I was able to get on the internet on that as well. I started down. I remember my first GIF was the Star Trek GIF. with the Star Trek, the next generation. So it's like, you know, the starship going to warp speed.
Yeah.
So I remember the first bit of code I wrote that actually worked was embedding a GIF onto a web page, and it was just the Star Trek Enterprise going into warp as well, which I thought was freaking amazing as well.
Yeah.
And so from there, I found a night school that was doing web design courses.
Right.
And I just jumped onto it, and I did a night school course at South Birmingham College.
You were doing that along with working at Ensley?
Did that alongside working at Ensley. This is you got to hustle and grind, as I say, right? So this is where,
man.
you know, so I'd still be going out with my friends and enjoying myself, but I'd be putting all the time in any spare time I had into this new hobby that I'd found.
Yeah.
And I found some great friends, by the way, as well, who helped me to understand that actually to progress in this, I'd need to invest a lot more time in learning this skill as well. So with the help of a very good friend of mine, one of my best friends, in fact, Asaf, he helped me go and buy a PC. Now, I had no idea what I was looking for. I bought a Pentium 3, right, with 8 gigabytes of hard drive. If it was that much, yeah, 8 gigabytes. No, it wasn't even 8 gigabytes. I think it was probably less than that, in fact.
Which is not a lot now, but back then that was probably a lot, yeah.
Well, I was deleting a lot of files at the time, let's put it that way. I don't even think it was 8. I don't even think it was 8 gigabytes, mate. I think it was maybe even 1 gigabyte as well, possibly.
Wow.
Right? And so my phone's probably got more power. My phone's got probably about 100 times more power now than something back in 1997, 98, right? So anyway, I bought this big thing. You're talking about CRT screens, right? This thing was huge, right? So if you could take into context my hands, it was wider than that, right? It was a 17-inch monitor, so that was a luxury in itself back in those days. I've got a 27-inch screen right now in front of me. So I had this 17-inch monitor, set it up in my bedroom. And honestly, mate, that's where my life took off. I learned how to start doing web design then. I installed Flash back in those days, Flash from Macromedia, which then became Adobe, by the way. So I downloaded that. I started learning how to do websites in Flash. Those were the first websites I ever did. Yeah. And one of the first free websites I did was for an optician's.
Oh yeah, look at you. You know the industry, you may as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I still had a passion for optics, and by the way, on the weekends I'd go and work with a friend of mine in an optician's in City Plaza as well. Wow. And so I continued that relationship on, and because
you were busy. So you were doing so you did Ensley, night school, still seeing friends, and working on opticians on the weekend.
Yep, and I loved every minute of it.
And just tell me, how did you not feel tired or burnt out at all throughout it? Like, this is a common thing that I've seen now. Burnout's real, right, with a lot of people. So how did you not feel tired or spent after doing that at that age?
Look, I was young. So there's obviously, when you're young, there's a lot more energy, but I understand there's mental fatigue as well that you get. But the thing is, when you're passionate about something and you're focused on something as well, you sort of get through the pain, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I was quite passionate about a lot of these things anyway. So, I mean, Ensley was great because it paid the bills. And so I did that because it was necessary. The web design was a passion. And the opticians was something that I enjoyed anyway. And then I was helping a friend out on weekends. So I'd go and work on a Saturday or a Sunday with him. I wouldn't work every weekend, I have to say, but I'd work whenever he needed me to help him as well. But the web design was an absolute passion. So I'd say I'd finish work, at 5:30. I'd be straight at the Orange Studios, or when I got my PC at home, I'd be straight at home tinkering around till midnight on my PC, making websites and what have you as well.
How old were you, Jim?
How old was I? I think 27-ish. I think it was 26, wow. 27. Yeah. So I look, and it was a hobby. So I remember doing a website for opticians, an engineering company, a limousine company, which is still a client of mine, by the way, still today. And I did a few other websites. I think I did a solicitor's website as well, right? So I did all these websites on the side as a freelancer when the term freelancer wasn't even being banded about.
Yeah, it wasn't even a thing. Yeah,
it wasn't even a thing. So I did that, and then the lucky thing was I was working at Ensley Insurance at the time, and that allowed me to have conversations with people that I wouldn't get to speak to otherwise. So
of course, yeah,
selling
you get access
insurance, so selling insurance, I get to ask everybody what they do for a living, right? So what's your job, you know? And then I came across a couple of people where their job role fitted alongside what I was doing, which is they had a business and I was selling a service as well, right? So I was, oh, listen.
So you sneakily stuck in your business like a little, like, I'm gonna slide this card
100%.
along the table. Don't tell anyone about it. Call me after, yeah.
Is exactly that way it happened as well. So I'll give you a taste of what the conversation was like. I'll be like, okay, so what car do you drive? Okay, and your postcode, and okay, and how many accidents have you had, and all that stuff. Then it gets down to what's your job title? Okay, oh, you're a managing director. Okay, so it's your business. Oh, wow, fantastic, you know.
Yeah.
So do you have a website? And he goes, that question? Like, no, I'm just interested. Have you got a website? Yeah, we've got a website. Or we're thinking about getting a website. Then I says, oh, that's interesting. Actually, as a hobby, I'm a web designer as well.
I can see the cheekiness in your face. If anybody's listening to this audio, you have to look at his face as he's saying this because it's so convincing. Go on, carry on.
So I got a few customers from that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was through the conversations I had that Endley Insurance with customers that I actually found my first gig that lasted for 12 years. So I was speaking to a guy called Raj, who at the time rang up to get an insurance quote for a Alfa Romeo Spider.
Yeah.
Beautiful car, by the way. And I was giving him a quote, and he said, oh, you know, so what do you do? And he says, oh, I'm a programmer. And I said, oh, okay, yeah, I'm a programmer as well. I feel embarrassed saying that because, of course, I wasn't a programmer. I was a web designer, right? And he goes, oh, what language do you sort of code in? I says, oh, HTML. And he started sniggering. And he goes, that's not programming. He goes, that's coding, not coding. He goes, that's web designing. I said, yeah, web design. And he goes, oh, what kind of websites do you create? And I was like, well, you know, I've done stuff in Flash. I've done a bit of HTML, you know, blah, blah. And he goes, oh, do you have a portfolio of websites? I said, yeah, I got loads, right? not thinking. Obviously, I'd had about 4 or 5 websites by that time, but not thinking at all where this conversation is going. And I says, actually, he goes, I'm thinking about starting a new business. And we need a web designer. And it hadn't clocked on to me at the time what he was talking about. I just thought he's starting a new business. He needs a website for the business.
Needs a website, but you didn't think that he was going to take you on as a web designer, I assume.
No, so I gave him a quote which came a little bit higher than it needed to be. So I called my manager over. I says, listen, mate, can you help me out? This quote's a joke, right? It's double what has been quoted elsewhere. Yeah. So he did his little magic and he got the quote right down. And I said, Raj, okay, so I've got some great news for you, Raj. So your quote's coming in at X amount. So let's do the business, right? That's how it was done.
Yeah, let's do the business, huh?
And he said, he goes, Jamil, he goes, thanks, man. He goes, the price is okay, but it's not the best, right? Yeah, he goes, so I'll leave that. But listen, why don't we grab a coffee? Yeah. And let's talk about this website. And I says, okay, so this was Friday, by the way. And I says, oh, when do you want to meet? He goes, let's meet tomorrow. And let's meet at Rat and Parrot on Broad Street. I said, Rat and Parrot, a weird place to meet, but okay.
Never heard of that place, but okay. It's not there
So
anymore.
Rat and Parrot is now what I think it's called Spice Nation. It's a bar. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so we met for a coffee at a bar the next day on a Saturday. And I remember going there a bit nervous and not sort of, I don't know why I was nervous, but I just felt nervous. I remember it distinctly as well. And I didn't drive in those days, so I was on a bus. Yeah. I got to Broad Street, got there, sat down with him. He loved his tea, by the way, so he was having a cup of green tea. Nice. And I had a coffee. And I took my laptop with my girlfriend had given me at the time. And he took a look at a few of the Flash websites I'd done. And he was like, you know what? He goes, this is good stuff, man. He goes, this is really impressive. I said, oh, cool, okay. So what kind of websites are you looking for? And he said, actually, he goes, do you have any more work? I said, yeah, I've got it in my PC at home. I said, oh, can we drive down and have a look? I said, weird, but okay, fine, we can. Yeah. I couldn't take it anywhere else. We had floppy disks back in those days, mate. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
So I said, okay, so it wasn't far. City centre to Borsalete wasn't exactly a million miles away. So got into his lovely Spider.
Of course, out from top down. Jamil's like, I want to be like you, man.
It's exactly what I was thinking. Anyway, So we parked up, got to my house, opened the door. My mum was in the hallway, and I says, Mum goes, "Oh, so who's this?" I says, "Oh, it's a friend of mine, Mum. Where are you going?" I says, "Oh, I'm just going to my bedroom." And my mum just gave me this weird look. She goes, "Okay."
Taking a guy upstairs to your bedroom with a friend that she's never met before. In the middle of the day on a Saturday.
It's exactly my thoughts, and I've never really taken another man back to my bedroom after that. So. Anyway, well, you know, it was a fruitful conversation, to be fair. So anyway, so I took him upstairs, switched my PC on, which I can't imagine was that fast, to be fair, because obviously, you know, your memory's a bit hazy as well. Anyway, I switched it on, pulled up a few websites, and he looked and he said, Jamil, he goes, "These are really, really good." He goes, "Look, let me lay the cards on the table. We're starting a new business, and it's going to be a web design company."
Okay.
And I was like, okay, yeah. So, and goes,
you weren't seeing at all, is what you were saying.
My brain was not switched on. I'm telling you, I was so slow back then, right? It was ridiculous. I didn't see what he's talking about. So he said, "Because we're starting a web design business. Do you want a job?" And I'm like, "Yeah, a job." And I'm thinking a web design job, and he goes, no. He goes, "Do you want to work for us?" And I was like, "Oh."
The penny drop moment, Jim.
Yeah, the penny dropped. And I'll tell you something.
You have to say it 3 different ways to you.
Yeah. I'm not joking. He actually said it to me 3 times. And I'll tell you something that hit me like a rock that day. It was imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
It hit me like a hammer on the head, right? Yeah,
I have that all the time, mate. I honestly sit there and think sometimes, I'm like, how did I get the job I'm in right now? I don't think I'm good at this. I've clearly blagged my way through this. I've just been lucky, and I'm like, I just got this idea from here, and I got this idea from there, and you know, I don't know anything really. And you start playing yourself down really badly, and somebody has to pull you out of that.
I genuinely said to myself, am I good enough for this? Am I going to be, oh my God, if I take the job, am I going to let these guys down? You know, have I overplayed myself a bit? You know, have I sort of sold myself too much? But he said to me, he saw the potential in me right away. And this is how fast it happened, by the way. So he came upstairs to my room. He had a look at the website. He obviously mentioned the design job to me a couple of times, 3 times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sat down at the edge of my bed and thinking, and my heart's beating really fast. I'm thinking, oh my God, right? And I'm thinking, and in my head, I could sort of start seeing myself becoming a web designer. But then at the same time, I was getting, damn, what about if I let these guys down?
Yeah.
It's going to be embarrassing. And I'm going to, you know, am I really going to be good enough? He got on the phone to his brother. His brother gave me a very short 5-minute interview on the phone. He says, because and then he spoke back to him. He's Gujarati, by the way. So spoke back to him. Said something in Gujarati, which I didn't understand at the time. I understand it a lot now, by the way.
Yeah, obviously now. Yeah, I was going to say.
I spent so much time with them. I understand it now.
You start picking up.
Anyway, so he said, well done. He goes, I'd like to take you on. And he asked me what salary I wanted. So I just plucked a figure out the thin air. And he said, yes. I won't mention what the figure is, by the way. But
that's fine. Don't worry.
And he said yes straight away. And I remember shaking his hand and him leaving. And I remember the feeling in the pit of my stomach, and it was of excitement and of nervousness, and I had all these emotions going through me. But I went out that night and I celebrated.
Yeah, obviously.
A lot.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'd do the same thing.
So on Monday, I turned up to work at Ainsley Insurance. I handed my notice in.
Yeah.
And I rang Raj up and I said, Raj, I've handed my notice in. He goes, no, he goes, what the fuck are you doing? Excuse my language. I said, well, then a moment of shock. And I thought, oh shit, you know, maybe he's changed his mind. I said, but did you not offer me the job? And he goes, yeah. He says, but why have you handed your notice in? I go, well, you know, if you give me a job, because, well, you know, I want to give my notice in. He goes, dude, it's not going to start until, you know, May of 2000, right? And I was like,
and what month were you in?
Oh. So this is, I think this is in January or February of 2000, right? And I'm like, oh, shit.
You can take a couple months off, I guess.
So I said to him, I said, look, I don't mind. I had a bit of savings anyway. I said, I don't mind. I'll spend this time, you know, honing my skills and what have you as well. But good to his word though. He actually took me on the next month. He was laughing. He goes, "You're crazy." Because bloody hell. He goes, "You handed your notice in." He goes, "I go, yeah." He goes, "Were you that excited about joining us?" I says, "Yeah."
Yeah.
He goes, "Okay, don't worry." And genuinely, the business actually started from our bedroom. That business, we didn't even have a premises at the time. Yeah. And we started in my bedroom, and so we landed our first project a month after I handed my notice in. So he just sort of paced it up a little bit.
You were the OG working from home, Jim. You set the trend way before time.
I'd roll out of bed and I'd roll into work. It's like lockdown. Honestly, it's like it took me back to that time. I'm in lockdown right now, but it just reminds me of the time when I used to roll out of bed, straight into work, roll back into bed,
and that's it. It's done.
I mean, I'd be working some crazy hours though, Indy. I mean, I remember doing 18-hour days, and it didn't feel like anything to me. It's like it was.
Wow,
it was awesome.
It was like a rush.
It was. I mean, it was amazing that time was. And then of course, I think around about August of 2000, they bought a building, which we moved into, and which was home to me for 12 years, by the way. Mm-hmm. So I was at the business for 12 whole years, and you know, there's so much learning I did in that time, and so much so many relationships I created in that time as well. And I can't stress enough that, you know, when your time is right, you know, when your time comes for an opportunity, it comes, you know, and you know, I can't thank those guys enough for the opportunity they gave me all those years back. But like all good things come to an end. Yeah. And in 2012, I decided to part ways basically and start Bootcamp Media.
And did you feel like that was because you wanted to start your own thing, or you just feel like you learned enough and you wanted to just move on and take the next step logically in your career?
So, you know, in the 12 years I was there, technology, like it does, it changes, but it changed so much in those first 12 years.
It did, it did.
There was a lot of things that were happening, and you know, I was going back to the guys and said, look, you know, we need to do this in the business, we need to do that in the business, and I really took ownership of the role itself, right? So a lot of people assumed that I was actually one of the owners of the business. That's
really?
How I treated
you were that heavily involved?
Without having any shares or anything like that at all in the business, but that's how I treated the business. It was like it was my own, and I really, it was important for them to understand that, you know, that morning, noon, and night, I was breathing their business and making it grow and what have you.
You're a unicorn, mate, because most people tend to give like 70-80% effort. No one treats it like 100% their business when they haven't got a share or anything and they're just getting a salary.
Well, I think that's a mistake. I think, you know, because I've been an employee, you know, and I'm an employer now, and I could see it from both sides. And I would say that if you don't treat the business like your own, then you're doing yourself a disservice, because only with the business thriving will you thrive yourself as well. Yeah. You know, if you don't want to give the value to the business and it starts faltering, you know, it's not just your fault. It's a fault of, you know, economics or what have you, right? But the thing is, if you're not putting in your effort as well and driving the value to your customer, then how do you expect to be rewarded by the employer at the end of the day? Yeah. It's simple at the end of the day. So for me, it was the right thing to do, ethical thing to do as well. But you know, I think a little bit of complacency gets in the way sometimes. So over the first few years, everything I said, everything I suggested, they guys listened to, right? Yeah, I mean, obviously they had a lot more experience in business. So I learned a lot from them and they learned a lot from me as well, right? So as time went on, they started changing their sort of business model to be different to what I wanted to be working in. And that's really fundamentally the reason I actually decided to leave. And it was one of the hardest decisions I ever made. And I remember when I sat down with Raj and telling him, look, you know, that 12 years later, right, that look, I'm thinking about leaving now. And I laid out the reasons and what have you. And we both had tears in our eyes because, look, you know, we were friends, we were brothers at the end of the day. He was my best man at my wedding as well, right? So, you know, we had a lot of emotional investment between us and the business as well. But I have to say, you know, for anyone who finds himself in a similar position, once you make your mind up, never look back, just see it through. Focus on, you know, what's ahead of you. And it was the hardest decision in the world, but it was the best decision I ever made as well, because I am where I am today, because I took those small steps in the beginning, but damn, they were scary as well. Because I tell you what, it's leaving the known into the unknown.
Yeah, of
that
course
was
it
the
is.
scariest thing for me in the world.
Jumping into a business and doing all that, because you obviously the last time you did it was when you were what, 20 years old. So you've done that, and you're now thinking, is it going to be, even though you've got so much experience under your belt, you're thinking, is it going to be similar to that? Then am I going to make the same mistakes?
Yeah,
And there is no book that tells you how to set up your own business. It's literally you have to stumble through and figure it out. You might have a mentor or something, but they're not going to spoon feed you.
so interesting difference between 20 and now. And I was scared because look, I could have started this business in 2008 as well. I did think about it then, and fear got the better of me.
That was the recession, wasn't it, in 2008?
Oh yes, right in the thick of it. And to be honest with you,
Are you going to do it then?
best time to start a business.
Why?
Honestly, there's so much opportunity.
Interest rates on loans are low.
It's not even about interest rates or loans or whatever. There's just so much opportunity. It depends on what you do, obviously. But in the digital world, there's so much opportunity out there. You know, when the chips are down, people are looking for ways to make more money, and digital was always the way forward. Even in lockdown, you got to look at it now. It's like it's a massive growth market right now. But yeah, I did think about it in 2008, but fear got the better of me. And one of those fears was that, you know, I had this business when I was 20 years old, that it failed. But it failed because I didn't have the right skills to run a business. But obviously, over the 12 years I was working at this agency, I'd learned a lot. I learned about credit control. I learned about customer relationship management. I learned about, you know, billing, all sorts of other stuff as well, banking, all of it. I learned all of the things that you need to know as a business. There were lots of things I didn't know still, obviously, but I was quite willing to learn. And there was lots of resources available online. Back when I was 20, there was no resources that were going to be able to help me. I mean, I went to the Chamber of Commerce, right, back in those days, and they did bugger all for me, basically, when I was 20 years old. So it certainly wasn't my first port of call when I started my business. In fact, I shunned the Chamber of Commerce up until, I don't know, 3-4 years back. So I didn't even use the Chamber of Commerce to grow my business, and you certainly don't need organizations like that to grow your business.
What is the Chamber of Commerce exactly, Jim?
So it's a membership-based organization. It works for a lot of, I just sort of going to say this, it works for a lot of businesses out there that connect businesses together.
Right.
But you certainly don't need it as part of your business growth sort of strategy right in the beginning. It's something you can go into much later on to sort of go, which is what I did. I mean, I went into it much later on, and sort of it connected me with people that I wanted to be connected with at a later stage of my business. But certainly wasn't something that I needed in the beginning. And certainly for me, when I was 20 years old, it didn't do me any sort of favors in the beginning, because I assumed that they would be able to help me with a lot of the skill shortages I had. But other than a few seminars which they put on, there was nothing else they were doing practically for me anyway. Anyway, that's
do you pay to be a member?
Yeah, you have to be paid member to take advantage of some of the services that they have. But I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of resources online today that you can get hold of, which will do just a good enough job as well. Trust me.
Yeah.
So anyway, I digress a little bit because the fear of failure really stopped me in 2008. But again, 2012, the same fear did come back to haunt me. But I don't know what it is, but I think fatherhood sort of really pushed me.
So you were just a dad then? I mean, you just had a newborn at that point?
I became a father in 2007.
Right.
So 2008 was when I was first thinking about starting business. And I think part of it was because my daughter was so young, and starting this business, it just brought back a lot of fears, and I just didn't have I don't think I had the strength to start it then. But maybe I should have had a bit more belief in myself, I suppose, is reality of it is, but I didn't. And then I turned 39. I think it was a combination. In fact, I was turning 39, going on to 40. I had 2 kids, and I thought, if I don't do it now, I never will.
Yeah.
And there was lots of reasons why I should have stayed on, but I didn't in the end. So, you know, I'm glad I did, because it was the best decision I ever made, like I said.
So you had the fear factor of being a dad and obviously having to provide. So you think that eradicated some, well, I wouldn't say eradicated it. It sort of superseded those old fears you had. You're like, I need to make this work in order to provide for my kids.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So that's exactly how I felt. That look, there's something has to change. Something has to happen, because if I don't do it now, I'll just continue being an employee for the rest of my life. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, at all. Because
but you just felt like you had a higher calling.
I just felt like it wasn't a higher calling, Indy. I think it was just that I felt that if I didn't do something for myself now, I just never would, and I would just become comfortable in staying in the middle lane, and that's it.
How did you
And
think
like I said, there's nothing wrong with that?
Because yeah, obviously, but then naturally, most people thinking in that space, I'm settled, I've got my kids, I don't need to take any more risks. I don't want to put them in jeopardy. I don't want to do anything that's going to rock the boat. I'm in it for the ride now. Let's just see it through until they can grow up, and then I can do my own thing. That's how normal people think, I assume. What made you think differently? Did you just think, oh, I'm done now with the journey I've been on, I want to take another step? Because that is still a pretty big risk to take, especially when you need to provide mortgage, kids, etc.
So a couple of things. My wife was a massive help. So she was working at the time. So there was an income coming in from there.
Okay, that's good.
So I talked to my wife and said, look, if I take this role on, it could mean that it could work brilliantly, or it could fall flat on my face, and I'd have to go back begging for my job back to the agency I left, right? And that's if they would take me back as well. And so we had some savings. We had her income coming in, and I knew that I would be able to make some money because I had a decent enough reputation anyway. So we just felt that it was the right time to take this leap of faith. And that's what it was. It was a leap of faith, basically. So it was making sure that everything was aligned at the right time. And I think we had all the things we needed in place. We had savings. We had 2 incomes coming into the household. Obviously, that would have gone down to 1. The kids were stable. The home life was stable. Everything was pretty much where we needed to be for me.
So everything started aligning for you as well at the right time.
Yeah. So that's it. That's when I took it. And I have to say, the first 6 months, I mean, geez, my stomach must have done so many somersaults. It's ridiculous. But again, looking back in hindsight, there are things I could have done differently. But then things progress the way they need to sometimes, and you just got to roll with it.
Were there many sleepless nights or anything like that where you were just thinking, like, am I doing the right thing? Did you ever doubt yourself all the time, or what was going through your mind in the first 6 months? Because obviously you must have had a figure in your head saying, I have to hit this much in order to make things sort of float a little bit and to sort of run at some sort of break even.
I must have had a figure in my head, not that I can remember it, to be fair. I think in my head I was thinking that I just needed this to work, but the biggest problem I had was that imposter syndrome came and hit me back again. Slapped me right in the face, and again I was like, who the hell do you think you are? Doing this, right? There's people that's better than you that can do this, and why should people follow you, and why should people want to do business with you for? And I tried my best not to listen to those demons, demon voices, I should say. I did my best not to listen to them at all, and I just got on with what I knew, what I'd learned over the years, and I just got on with doing that. And what I did, and I'm so glad I did it this way. In fact, one of the best decisions I ever made, around myself with people who were as good, or if not better than me, in the roles that I was hiring for, so web design, marketing, programming, what have you as well. So, I made sure that the people that were on board were as good, if not better than me. And in fact, the majority of them were better than me anyway. So obviously when I went out and sold, I knew I could make those promises without,
because you knew the team would always pull through for you.
Yeah, exactly. So that was one of the best decisions I ever made, was to, rather than starting off as a one-man band, is to start off with a team. And I believe by around about August of 2012, I had about 4 people working for the business.
Did you have office space or anything, or were you still all doing it here and there and everywhere?
Yeah. One of the biggest mistakes I made initially was to start off in a service office, which is a massive expense, and an expense I didn't need. So any advice I can give to anybody starting off new: do not go down an office space that you don't need. Certainly not a service office, because it's just a stupidly high rent that you don't need to be paying. If you need space, by all means get space, but make sure that it's ideal for you, but you're not paying over the odds, basically. because you need that cash flow.
You need it spare, yeah, as well.
Yeah. So I made that mistake for the first 3 months of the business, and then after that we rectified it and moved into much more affordable accommodation and a lot more manageable from a cash flow point of view as well.
Okay, so you've taken the step into doing Bootcamp Media, and then inevitably you start seeing it grow. And how did you run things correctly so your costs didn't get out of control? Because I know you've got a very lean team, but you equally service a lot of clients, and I'm still in awe at how you do it, because most agencies tend to have it set that you do this one job, you do that one skill, you do that one skill. But I think you've taken a different approach to allow people to have multiple skills so they can deploy themselves across multiple clients. So give me a bit of insight into that.
Well, look, I've run the business like I would like to have been employed, right? And I certainly wouldn't have enjoyed my job if I was just doing SEO, or if I was just doing social media marketing, or if I was just doing web design. It's just, there's an element of change that people need in their roles on a day-to-day. So they need that variety of work to keep them interested and to focus them as well. So, I absolutely look for people who are great at this one thing, but have this passion in other areas as well. So what I say to them is, look, I'm not going to restrict you in just doing social media marketing, for instance, or SEO, or web design, or ad management, or what have you. If you've got a passion to do other things, we'll get you involved. And so it's great from that point of view as well, and it keeps everybody happy.
And how do you manage to still juggle that, get them to learn their new skill and still get them to service clients correctly? So nothing's been sacrificed in that interim period when they're picking up a new skill.
No, so look, I always say, my mantra is communicate. If you don't communicate with your customer, and I emphasize it's your customer, not just my customer or the company's customer. It's your relationship at the end of the day. So if you don't communicate, you won't be able to do your job as effectively as you need to, right? So communication is the key to everything. We've got processes in place, when certain things happen, when an email comes in for a request or a support ticket or what have you, they are steps that are taken within the business to make sure that a job gets done. But communication is the key to everything. And I say that to anyone in any business. If you don't communicate, anything in your business to your customers, there's a problem. So communication is absolutely the key.
Wow. Okay. I mean, it's great to know that a lot of people have come to you and worked with you, and they've also had the ability to pick up another skill and still feel like they can do that and fulfill their current needs in their job. One thing that I found with agencies is that it's very difficult to do that, especially when they're busy all the time, and it sort of just gets pushed to the wayside because you're so focusing on servicing the client, and you don't want to let them down. And inevitably, you just sort of carry on, and prior to even knowing it, you're 3 months in, and you've forgotten about that skill that you really wanted to pick up when things start getting a bit quiet again.
You need to put it in practice, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
You need to put it in practice every day if you can. Yeah, it's important.
What's the worst client experience you've ever had, Jim?
Worst client experience. Oh, okay.
I can see you running through the whole criteria in your head and running through.
In my head, I'm going through the kind of questions that come to me and the scenarios. I'll give you a classic one. Is when you're winning for a customer, right? And
when you're trying to get them on board.
No. So like you've got a client on board. They've been with you for 2-3 years, and everything is going great. So the revenue is going up, the traffic is going up, the keywords are going up. I mean, everything is the stars are aligned and they're all going right. It's the worst thing the worst experience I have is when complacency kicks into a client. So not for us, but for the client itself, right? So I've had an incident where a client has been with us for 3-4 years, say, for instance, and they'll come back and say, we've been with you for 4 years, and we think we can do better now. That we're doing brilliantly as a business. We've grown so much with you guys, so thank you for that. But we think we can do better than you. We think we're too big for you now.
Right.
As a company, we think we're too big for you as an agency. And that always shocks me because I'm thinking there's no such thing as too big, for an agency, because we're in digital space at the end of the day, right? So we have a plethora of skills in-house that we supply to our customers, and they're all in-house, I might add as well. They're not outsourced at all. And so this particular customer I'm talking about actually said, we're too big for you. I says, okay. So why do you think that? And I go, well, we've reached a certain level. We now want to go to the next level. I said, okay, well, to go to the next level, you need to increase your resources. You need to do this, and this. And I go, I'm happy to facilitate that for you. We've got the resource in house to do that for you as well. And they came back with, no, we think we need to go for somebody of a larger team than yours, which really confused me. I was like, well, I just don't understand why you don't want to leave, because look, all the figures are like that, it's all going up, skyrocketing. And so why would you want to leave a team that's winning for you all the time? And you want to jump ship to another agency because you're winning? And that honestly took me back a little bit. Obviously, when the client wants to leave, we never stand in the way. We make that transition very, very smooth for them. As soon as they put in writing that they want to leave, we then have a process for offboarding that client as well. And it's as smooth as onboarding as well itself. So we offboarded this client, we shook hands, we always keep the relationship always cordial.
Yeah, because you never know what's going to happen in the future, right? Yeah,
of course. And so the client went off to another agency, and then 6 weeks later, I get a phone call from the client saying, "Oh, we're still hosting a website with you, blah blah." And I'm thinking, "Damn, they want to move the website off as well." I'm like, okay, cool. And he says, "Well, actually, we've got a new project which we want to talk to you about." And I said, "Okay." And they started talking to me about this project. And then I said, "How come you're not going to your new agency for this new project? How come you're coming back to us?" And then the real conversation was like, well, the relationship with the other agency is not great because they're not doing what you were doing for us. You weren't, the communication isn't there.
Right.
The performance isn't there. The paid ads that you were doing brilliantly, and now they're not doing as good. And so we re-onboarded them 8 weeks after they left.
Wow.
Right, and they're still with us now. So, and that's the kind of things you have to deal with. It's like you're doing a great job. I mean, now obviously, when you're not, when things aren't going great, you know what you need to do. You need to do something to fix the problem, which is the traffic isn't there, the keywords are not going up. So you know that there's a problem to fix. But when there's nothing to fix, how do you fix the problem? You just can't. So that was one of the biggest sort of challenges I could think of. It's like, wow, that's a customer who should be happy but isn't happy, and they want to move on somewhere else. And it just really took me back a little bit. But thankfully, they came back as a client anyway.
Wow, that's really interesting, man. Honestly, I never thought that would be a reason. I think it would be like, oh, clients kicked off, they've thrown their toys at the pram, they've taken you off an account, they told you to piss off, etc. Like all this stuff. No.
In the nicest possible way, I might add as well, right? So it's very politely, oh, look, we're thinking.
Okay, of course. Anyway. It's the niceness that kills you, doesn't it? Right? It's the fact that it's so nice that kills you. But shout out to your integrity there, because most people in that instance might get super petty, and they might be like, okay, fine, take it, and just throw it back at them and just let them go. And they wouldn't have come back to you and had that humble conversation later on saying, we want you to run this project and then you can take us back. You could get that revenue stream back. Most people don't think long term like that. They get very emotional and they think, no, screw you, piss off. I don't want to work with you again. So how hard is that?
That's a bad attitude to have. I mean, look, we're all humans at the end of the day. We all make decisions based on emotions. So when it comes to this, it's not personal. I always understand that it's never personal. It's a business transaction. So I always like to say that, I'd like to keep our personal relationship going, friendship, because it's inevitable with clients, you become friends as well, right? So you never want to lose that because you just never know what the road ahead leads to. It's just sort of tomorrow is only known to tomorrow, and that's it. So never cut your ties with anyone.
Have you found that hard to sort of take yourself out of that situation and not be emotional and simply accept it and not take it personally? Because people always say, it's not personal, it's business. And I hate that phrase, but I think in this statement, it's very, very applicable. So
a lot of learning had to be done for me to get where I am today with the way my attitude is as well. But yeah, very early days, if a client ever wanted to leave or they were unhappy, I'd be like, oh, why? And, get stressed about it. But I would never let the client know. I'd put the phone down and I'd be stressing I'd get stomach pains or whatever you all get, right? And you'd be like, why, what's going on, right? And I'd be talking to my team, I was like, I'm frustrated. Why is this customer not happy, right? And obviously, so internally, the team is like, guys, what can we do to improve that relationship, right?
Yeah.
And the customer's on the phone like, this is crap, that's crap. Like, oh, damn, what the hell are we doing wrong, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that those kind of conversations happen very early on in the relationships. And I mean, nowadays, what I would say is I listen out for words like which lead me to think that things aren't as good as they could be. So I always have a very hands-on approach to our clients and the management of the clients as well. But you know, what's happened in the lockdown is I've passed that ownership onto the team, and I've made it really abundantly clear to all of them that, you know, you're all responsible for the happiness of that client. And so if you feel that they're not getting what they want, then you can come back to me to say, oh, I want to do X, Y, Z, and I'll always approve whatever you think is right. But keeping the client happy within reason, obviously, is very important. And that is no longer just my responsibility now. It's the responsibility of every single member of the team now.
Nice. What's the one marketing tactic you would say to a new business starting out that they should do straight away? If you had to pick one out of all of them, which is the one you would say to do and why?
Oh, okay. So this is going to surprise some people. So it doesn't involve digital at all, and it involves building relationships. So networking is the number one. If you're business to business, for sure, networking is the key to opening doors up to opportunities. And I cannot tell you how important that has been as a skill to have in our business. And networking is something we're very well known. I'm very well known for. So definitely networking for your business. But if you're a business to consumer, then I would say taking the conversation to your customers and using every digital channel that is suitable for your type of business. Obviously, you know, different channels for different types of businesses, but every digital channel that's suitable, use it to communicate to your customers and make sure you stay ahead of the trends. That's going to be the key to your success, because you've got the same opportunity as the big brands when it comes to organic growth. But you know, understand that growth takes time and it's not going to happen overnight.
And what about when you say networking, which types of networking, like going to events, just messaging people on socials, trying to get to know them? What's the best approach for you in terms of networking?
It's when I say networking, I mean the one-to-one human interaction. That could be a phone call, it could be a Zoom call, it could be events. Obviously, in the last year, we've not been able to do physical events, but of course, physical events where you can look people in the eyeballs, create those real, tangible relationships, friendships, even, right? Those are important. So I would say networking events are definitely important, but understand what you're there for. You're not there to sell, you're there to create relationships. This is the biggest
most people tend to go in and just talk about
go
the
with their
stuff.
business card and say, here's my business card, take this, this is what I sell, buy this off me now. Please don't do that. Please go there like you would go to a social event where you're meeting
comes a lot later, doesn't it?
Create relationships. Treat people like you would treat a friend. Treat people like you would treat family at the end of the day. Talk to them, get to know them, because you're only going to buy from people you know and like, right, at the end of the day, right? So if you don't like that person, you're never going to hand your money over to them, and vice versa, by the way. So just get to know people first.
Wow, that's a really powerful thing to say, because I don't think a lot of people see that. Most people think, oh, I need to sell. But if you play the long game, people come back to you later, right? Especially if they
all about the long game.
It's about know, like, trust, isn't it? It's like they need to know you, they need to
like and trust, exactly,
and then they genuinely trust you to give them like a decent product or decent service at the end of it.
Yeah, and look, your reputation is everything. So, you know, always stay honest and sort of make sure you communicate your value really clearly, you know, at the end of the day. And how do you say this? There are people out there who who are out there for a fast buck. You'll get figured out very quickly. There'll be a few people burnt along the way, but in the long term, your reputation is going to be shoddy and it's going to be shot. So stay honest at the end of the day.
But touching onto that, because I did want to talk to you about this, what kind of underhand things have you seen other companies do, like in marketing, that's just not been cool? Or is there like rivalries with other companies in marketing? Like, I don't know if it's a vicious space to be in, especially in Birmingham where there's a number of agencies.
Look, I don't focus on other agencies. I certainly don't look at what they do or don't do. I know what we do, and we do what we do brilliantly. And I love my team, and I'm grateful to them every day that we are out there serving our customers. So I certainly don't look at any tactics that our competitors use. There's some great agencies out there, by the way, as well, equally. But from the good and bad agencies, I honestly, I wouldn't even want to comment on them. I will say just this one thing. if you give great service, people will talk about you. If you give shit service, right? Yeah, and excuse the language.
Yeah.
People will definitely talk about you.
Wow, I never thought of that. I thought your answer would have then been people won't talk about you at all. But
no, they'll tell the whole world about you. I mean, like it's like the old analogy, right? You know, you give great service and 5 people will learn about your great service. You give bad service and 100 people will know about it.
What's your approach been to working from home now, Jim? Because I know you've got an office space and you've recently purchased a new office space as well. But the lockdown has obviously stopped everybody from going to offices. So how's it been for you with reassessing maybe your priorities and approach towards that?
I mean, I'm not a massive fan of working from home personally, but it's been revolutionary for our business. And so there's a lot of learning that I've done. And so I'm going to be transferring that learning day to day when lockdown finishes as well. So we are certainly not coming back to a full working week in the office. Nice. In fact, what I've said to the team is that you can all work from home as often as you want. You can return to the office as often as you want. We'll have a flexible working arrangement for everybody. There is no 9 to 5 anymore. No one's gonna have to clock in and clock out. Everyone's salaried. So you have an agreed salary, which will be obviously paid over the hours anyway. But it's all about work-life balance. And that sounds like a cliche, but it's about creating that real balance between working and...
Even working at home, I think I've noticed work-life balance is so key to me. Like to be at home after I finish work straight away, I'm like, oh, that whole dead time has disappeared. I don't have to sit in traffic. I don't have to get up the train. I don't have to go outside with the crap weather, especially over the last 6 months. I can simply just be at home. And now that summer's coming, I can just sit in my conservatory and be like, yo, this is great. I can just sit in the sun and just enjoy myself for like a little bit and maybe read a book. And that's massive.
But equally, Indy, there are people who want to come back to the office.
No, I understand.
So we are creating a space for people who want to be in the office.
Yeah.
And for those people who want to be at home more often, they can be. So we're going to have a day in the office per week, which I will choose. I haven't decided what day it is. Probably going to be a Friday, to be fair, because I like getting everybody together, have food together as well, because I like to be in a collaborative space. But that's really going to be about, you know, creating that team spirit kind of thing as well. And we will probably settle into a 2-3 day working week in the office anyway. We'll probably settle into that in the coming months or a year as well. But certainly, we're not going back to working in a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday business anytime soon.
Can people work on flexible hours for you? They can work like any time between the hours of 9 to 5, like you can shuffle it.
I did a bit of work today before I came on to this interview.
Yeah, but you're the owner. I expect you to do that. Right?
But I don't see myself as the owner of the business. I see myself as a part of the team. Yeah. So I've got a role as well. I still do some web design because I just enjoy it. I just like to. I pick a project to do. I'll pick a project which I want to work on. I'll take a little bit longer and I'll give it back to one of my guys to finesse it a little bit more. Because look, I'll be honest with you, I'm not as creative as I want to used to be, right? But I will get it to a certain point, which saves a hell of a lot of time to the team as well. And then I'll hand it over and they're like, oh, okay, that needs to be fixed.
It's probably because you have like a itch to scratch, right? So you're like, oh, I just want to feel young again.
I'm old school. Listen, I'm old school. I can't let go of the habit. So I like to get involved in that part of the business, but I'm not going to create anything massively creative myself, but because my team are amazing, honestly. Our new website is going to be coming live soon. The new branding went live last year as well, and the website was going to come soon after. But God, the amount of work that's come in, everything's been delayed. And so I had a massive hand in the old website, which is horrible, and I hated it. But the new website is all them, and I've seen it recently, and I'm like, wow, it's just like, wow, it's amazing. You know, I love it. And so credit goes to the team because they're a lot more creative. And I'm just an old geezer who likes to dabble in a bit of web design. So, that's it really. So yeah, I keep myself busy. And then occasionally I'll do a bit of customer support because again, it keeps me connected in with the customers on that level as well. But yeah, so I treat myself like the team. And there's no such thing as a 9 to 5 job anymore. It's certainly in our space. There shouldn't be a 9 to 5 job, but you should be able to switch off. You should be able to spend time with your family. You should be able to appreciate what you have, but equally you should be able to switch back on, right? Yeah, and be able to be like really focused and sort of raring to go as well.
Jim, how do you do that? Because obviously, inevitably, as an owner, I think it's a skill you must have honed because you've had Bootcamp Media for nearly 9 years. How did you get to a place where you were able to switch off and not think about work, not feel like you have to check your emails, not feel like anything's going sort of massively wrong. Like, say when you go on holiday, do you never check anything? Do you never look at any emails? Do you never talk to anyone?
So, at the end of Avengers, when the team Avengers asked Bruce Banner, "What's your secret?" and he says, "The secret is I'm always angry," right?
Yeah.
Well, the secret is I'm always switched on. So the balance comes from the idea of knowing that you don't need to look at your phone to check emails every single second. If your kids are with you and they're hugging you and they're spending time with you, I mean, don't be an idiot, right? Yeah, and pick your phone up, spend time with your kids. But equally, if you're on a sun lounge, as you said, on holiday, right? Yeah, and you're reading a book and you want to pick up your phone to check your emails, nothing wrong with that at all, I think. If you want to pick up and see what's going on, look, have an out of office for God's sakes, right? So that people understand that you're out of office, so to leave you alone, because not everything is urgent. But if there's something that comes up, right, and you need to deal with it, I'd rather be able to say, hey guys, just jump onto this and sort this out, than to worry about when I come back and think, oh my God, how come we didn't action this at all? You'll wait for me to deal with it. So as a business owner, I don't think you have to switch off. You just have to be clever about how you spend your time. That's it.
And how does that keep, obviously, the wife happy at home? Because people at home are going to want, people at home are going to want your full undivided attention. Hey man, it's real. Like, you have those slots in the evening where you want to spend time with each other. The kids are asleep and you guys want to chill together. But how do you make sure that is still satisfied as well, but also you're managing a business? Like, it's not that simple sometimes.
So my wife has a rule: if we're having dinner, phones are put away.
Yep, I remember that. One time you hung up on me because you said, Indy, I've got to eat and I can't have my phone at the table. I was like, mate, fair play. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So phones are off, or at least put away. If we're out to dinner with friends, again, even out of respect, I don't look at my phone anyway. My phone goes on silent. I mean, while we were talking, I had a phone call coming in. It was on silent, so obviously not going to answer it. The tendency is, in this day and age, that you're so connected that you just pick up, your phone every 2 seconds. So it's just learning to prioritize things and what you're in, deal with that first rather than what's happening with the phone. Because you can always call people back is the idea really anyway. So kids time, wife time, family time, put your phone away. You don't need it. If somebody wants you urgently, they'll ring you more than once. That's the key.
Ooh, okay, all right. And then you're like, oh, I probably need to take this. They've called me.
It must be urgent. So if you ring, like my team will ring me only once. If it's not urgent, they'll ring me once or they'll message me. More often than not, by the way, the rule is don't call me, message me, because I will ring you back if I need to as well, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, in the last year, that's massively taken a chunk of time, saved me over the day, because there are so many conversations I have in the day which I just have to have. But my team isn't taking that time away from me at all.
Yeah.
But on holiday, I always do. My routine is check your messages in the morning and check your messages at night, and the rest of the time you're on holiday.
That's nice. Yeah, I like that.
That's it.
Okay. Would you say that? I'm assuming your parents are not from England and they've not been born and raised here. Is that correct?
So yeah, both my parents are born in Pakistan.
Okay.
And my father came over in the 60s. Sorry.
And they moved over here, right?
Yeah. So my dad came over with my grandfather in the 60s, and my mum came over when she married my father in 1972, 73.
And would you say that obviously being a child of a first generation parent has given you like a different amount of work ethic compared to say somebody else that's been born and raised here, maybe doesn't have that sort of hunger in them, because we've come from harder times as a minority, and it's been more difficult for us to make progress. Would you say that that's been quite important for you in order to run a business and to get to where you are today? Because it sounds like you worked pretty damn hard during your 20s, Jim.
My father taught me the value of hard work in lots of ways. So that's built into me. I don't know how my kids will turn out when it comes to work. I mean, I'm very proud of my kids, but I certainly won't be putting them through some of the hardships that my parents went through and I had to go through myself. Obviously, I think every parent wants to give their kids a better sort of start in life as well. I don't know. I think it's difficult for me to pass judgment on any generation after mine, because obviously I had a very different upbringing as well. So yeah, I saw my dad working, in a factory, very hard, providing for his family, then going through unemployment for a long period of time, and suffering because he couldn't provide for his family the way he wanted to as well. My mum worked incredibly hard as well, sewing clothes at home and what have you. So, that gave me definitely a passion and zeal to succeed in life, because I wanted to just have a better standard of living for myself and my family as well, my parents. And unfortunately, my father passed away before I was able to start my business. He passed away a year before I started my business. So, one of my biggest regrets is that he was never able to see the success I was able to create in Bootcamp Media. But I mean, I even in this generation now, I do see a lot of kids. I mean, the entrepreneurial spirit is very much alive. And I mean, I see a lot of young Asian kids, Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Afro-Caribbean as well, who are incredibly hardworking, incredibly dedicated to what they do as well, as are you as well, Indy, So what I'd say is, I wouldn't say it's a different work ethic. I think it's the motivations are different.
I think the motivations are very different, yeah. And I was thinking that one day when I have kids, are their motivations going to be watered down compared to mine? Because I've seen my mum and dad work incredibly hard, and I've seen my mum run her own business, and I've seen her work 9 to 7 in our pharmacy, come upstairs, make food for like my grandma, my granddad, my dad, the kids, and then herself going to sleep, getting up, doing the same thing again. And then even on Saturday, working then, and Sunday just clean up. And she did it for over a number of years. And I'm thinking, how do you do that? And but seeing her do that makes me think, I've got it easy. I need to get to that level in some sort of way. I may not be 100% there, I might be 70% there, but that's still higher than most people's percentage that they have in their own life now. And I think that's really important for me to see and appreciate, because it's sort of like a role model thing, isn't it? It's like you'll inevitably try and aspire to be, or to try and be better than what your parents have given you in terms of experience.
Well, I would hope that what we do as the generation after our precedes us is that we work smarter rather than harder. I mean, work hard for God's sake, but always work smarter. So I wonder if what we mean by watered down is that our kids are going to work smarter than us.
Potentially, yeah. I really hope it turns out like that, but I hope that it doesn't turn into like, oh, my dad's done this, why can't I just do that as well, without seeing the bridge that was crossed to get to where you got to.
You've got to understand. My son says, Dad, he goes, don't sell the business, I want to take it over. I'm like, oh, okay, you got to start from the bottom. Then you got to learn how it all works. Definitely. Exactly. So it's important. I think it's important to instill values into your kids. I think the culture changes. I think times change you. I mean, even I've changed over the years. I'm not the same person I was when I was 20 years old. Certainly won't be the same person when I'm 60, I'm sure, as well. But time changes you. I think your environment changes you as well, and the same thing will happen with the kids as well.
Of course, yeah. I think it's really important that we make our kids aware of that in the future, and just make them know that this is what we went through. You might not have to go through the same hardships, but you still have to work hard to get to where you want to. As you said, smarter or however way it is, that's fine.
Yeah, I think our next generation's hardships are going to be there, because look, without getting into the nitty-gritty, the socio-economic climate is definitely going to be tougher. You look at the debt that we're in now as a country, as a society now. These debts are not going to be paid off by us. They're going to be paid off by our children and our children's children as well. So the way we've got to look at it is that we may think that life's easier for them. They certainly won't have the same challenges as we had, but they'll have their own challenges to deal with as well. So it's we could easily pass judgment, but it's too easy to say that.
Yeah, it is way too easy, isn't it? I think we're just gonna have to wait and see. Do you think that there are tinges of discrimination in the business world itself? So I know that if I look at the higher levels of companies, there's simply not enough representation within the BAME committee, or sorry, not committee community. And I just don't think that that's there. But I don't know if those barriers are ever going to be broken down, really. So seeing somebody like you set up your own business and be successful is great, but I still don't think that there's enough being done at bigger companies or bigger places that needs to add in more representation for us to get there.
Anyone who says there is no issue with race when it comes to opportunities, even in our industry, and I'm talking across all industries right now as well, there's a problem. There's a massive problem. There's a massive problem with underrepresentation of the BAME community. Our community, when I talk about the BAME community, is the Black, Asian minorities. There's an amazing, abundant amount of skills out there. it's criminal that they don't get the opportunities to work in digital agencies. When I look at some agencies, you asked me earlier on about, the underhandedness. Well, I wouldn't want to talk about it, but one thing I will talk about is that when I look at some agencies and I look at the spectrum of their employees, it's a bit too bland, if I'm honest, right?
Yeah.
And that's the polite way of saying it, is that there's not enough representation. If you've got 10 employees in your business and you don't have one black face or one Asian face, or if you've got one only, that's just ridiculous. In a city, right, as big as Birmingham,
it's really diverse. You have the biggest Asian.
Yeah, very diverse. Yeah,
massive Asian.
But how is it right that in the top 10 digital agencies that the representation of Asian? I'm not saying this to everybody, by the way, because I know there's agencies out there that have a good representation. But if you're completely whitewashed, then it's just pathetic. I think you're not looking at the broader pool of talent out there that could be great for your business, and that you're not doing it. I certainly am using it to full effect in my business, and it's one of the reasons we're very successful, is because I don't look at color, I don't look at gender, I look at talent, and I look at what our sort of community can bring in. So,
and you always take into account, you have an apprentice that always works for you as well each year, just to give them a chance to hone their skills in, essentially. And that goes back to maybe there's a bit of a parallel there with where Boot said to you, you haven't got the skills, you can't do this management thing, but then if you take an apprentice on, you're giving them the chance to hone those skills, build themselves up, and then move forward in the world without a degree or something like that.
I have the utmost respect for anyone who does a degree, a master's, has an academic qualification. I take my hat off to you. I wish I could have been an academic of sorts as well. My circumstances didn't allow me to, because of responsibilities I had at the time. Mm-hmm. But you do not need a degree to succeed in life. That's been proven time and time again. I would say to you that apprenticeships is a great way to get into. Look, I was an apprentice. I was an apprentice used in the youth training scheme, and I learned a lot. I think part of the reason I am the way I am is because of that as well. Apprenticeships are a wonderful way of stepping into a career and evolving, and they open up doors of opportunities for everyone. All I say to companies out there is just allow, it's not cheap labor, by the way, just so I understand. It makes me really angry when people say, oh, we'll take on 10 apprentices and all that. Well, have you got
which a lot of people do, and they do that, yeah.
Have you got 10 jobs to give at the end of that? I take on one, maybe two apprentices at a time, and there's always a job at the end of it. There's not a single apprentice I've taken on that I've not given a job to, by the way, in the last 9 years. And so it makes me really angry, right, that people treat apprenticeships as a cheap form of labor. Without swearing, I mean, I can't.
No, I get it.
And it really makes me angry that people think of it that way as well. So what I will say is that, to any business out there, digital or otherwise, use the apprenticeship program as a way to recruit from a diverse, talent pool. If a graduate comes to you, don't look at their name and their color, look at their talent, look at what they can do for your business. Mm-hmm. Because I promise you, it's these individuals who want to prove themselves that are going to make your business a massive success. Because it has for me, it really has. It's been I can't stress enough. In fact, I'll give you an example. I had a girl who worked with me very early on, and she wanted to do. She finished a degree off, and she wanted to do a master's. So I funded her master's. She now has gone on and started her own agency, by the way.
Wow.
And we're still great friends. And we talk to each other all the time. I mentor her as well sometimes. Mm-hmm. So it can work. The thing is, the relationships it creates and the opportunities it creates. Another example is somebody who worked for me as an apprentice, did their apprenticeship, was succeeded, and now has left and started their own business, but gone into the property market, but used all of the digital skills they learned with us to promote their business as well. And I'm doing business with them.
See, always playing the long game. I see you.
Always play the long game. Listen, the opportunities come if you create the opportunities. I never thought it would happen that way. It just did.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Last question then, Jim. Explain to me the backdrop that you've chosen in this picture, in your background for people that can't see it. It's the am I correct in thinking it's the artwork that's been put up in Digbeth, in Birmingham?
Right,
yeah, it is.
That's it. Yeah. So it's opposite the melting pot in Digbeth. It's the Art for Charity artwork, and the artwork behind me was put together by Gent48, who is one of the 3 top graphic art street artists in the world. And this was to commemorate the incredible sacrifices and hard work that the frontline workers have done in Birmingham. And so, you know, if you see in the background, you'll see doctors, nurses, you know, ambulance, firefighters, police, and public volunteers there as well, fighting the good fight, which is fighting against COVID. And it was done to help raise money for 4 charities, and that's under the banner of the Lord Mayor's charity, which was going to support Lord Mayor's charity, St. Mary's Hospice, Acorns Hospice, and CIFA. And the reason we did it is because these great charities have lost their ability to raise the kind of funds they need to able to run and serve the community that we're in, which is Birmingham. You know, St. Mary's Hospice is very close to my heart because obviously of my uncle. When he passed away, they, you know, afforded him care. So it's life-limiting care, basically. So it's palliative care. And so, you know, I just wanted to do my bit. And Paul Cadman reached out to a few of us and said, look, we want to do this. Do you want to get involved? And I said, yeah, what do you want, Paul? What do you want to do? And so we would, myself and my team were tasked with creating a website and the social media marketing, communication, and obviously then, you know, if we get the word out there as well. And our aim is to, well, we've got some prints done, by the way, so you can go to artforcharity.co.uk website and you can have a look at the prints that we've got out there. But we've got 10 limited edition wet prints, which have been signed by 250 amazing individuals in Birmingham. And it also includes the Lord Mayor. And we've also got Keir Starmer and our Prime Minister Boris Johnson on there as well signed. So we've got 10 prints which we're auctioning off at £10,000 each. Nice. We've already sold 2. We've sold 1 at 17,000, which is amazing. So I want to say thank you to that individual as well. And then you can actually buy a reprint of the same size at £1,000 a piece. But every single penny, not a single penny is going into administration or admin costs or anything like that at all. The only thing that the cost will cover is the paints or what have you, which has already been paid for, by the way, as well, which has been done by donations. But every single penny for a purchase of a print will be divided into 4, and we're going to Lord Mayor's charity, St. Mary's Hospice, Acorns, and CIFA.
Jim, send me the website after this. I'll put it in the link underneath our episodes. People can go and check that out afterwards.
That's great. Thank you, and I appreciate that.
Do you have anything to plug at the end, Jim? I've got some quick fire questions to give you, but is there anything else you want to plug?
I never like to plug anything. So other than the art charity is what I wanted to talk about, but no, nothing to plug really.
All right, in which case I'll do the quick fire questions. So basically, you have to give me the first answer that comes to your head. Okay.
Oh God.
All right. So, Jim, do you prefer sweet or savoury?
Savoury.
Abroad or staycation?
Abroad.
Google ads or Facebook ads?
Oh, it's hard. Facebook ads is my favorite at the moment. Facebook ads is my favorite at the moment. Yeah.
Just shoot me in the heart. Yeah. Okay. I'm only saying that because I do PPC and Google ads. Thanks. You have to use one utensil for the rest of your life: a spoon or a fork.
Spoon.
Good choice. Good choice. I can tell the Indian in you there because we don't use forks. We use spoons. Would you rather be 10 minutes late or 20 minutes early?
20 minutes early.
Ooh. And what would you do in that 20 minutes?
Prepare.
Okay. Would you rather control space or time?
Time.
Yes. Would you prefer to eat your favorite meal for the rest of your life or never be able to eat your favorite meal ever again? So you can only eat that meal for the rest of your life, nothing else.
The rest of my life, eat my favorite meal for the rest of my life.
Really?
Yeah,
see. Mine's pizza, right? If I did that, I couldn't hack it anymore. Like come from the second day, I'm like.
But the key is though, I'd eat it once a day, and I'd only eat once a day, and that's it. That's the way I would get to it. Yeah.
Interesting. And what is your favorite meal?
I can't say it's too out there. Trust me. I don't think many people would know what it is. To be fair.
Okay, fair enough. I'll let you know. That's all, Jim. That's all I wanted to know.
It's a pastry of sorts, by the way. It's a pastry, but it's a Pakistani dish, but it's a pastry.
Yeah.
Still full of meat though.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Jim. You've been a great guest, man. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Really appreciate. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
No worries. I will chat to you soon. Okay. Take care, man.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Yeah.